You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester.
And welcome, everybody, to another edition of the REVIEWcast podcast. Joining me today is Lisa Gullickson, a.k.a. Wife Dork.
You see, when they're apart, they're absolute fucking rubbish. But you put them together, they're the goddamn fucking Spice Girls.
And also joining me is Brad Gullickson, a.k.a. the Mouth Dork.
Down there, I sell whiskey and cards. All you can buy up these stairs is a bullet in the head. Now, which one do you want?
And I am your host today, Brian Young, also known as the Turtle Dork. We're a family now, a family with money. And this is the REVIEWcast podcast.
Yay!
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Yes. We are, guess from the time this airs, 3 days. You guys are 2 days.
Yep.
From being in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, and Darren and Billy will be in Winchester, Virginia for Lost Weekend. We've got Lost Weekend and Fantastic Fest this weekend.
Yes, REVIEWcast is going to be doing double duty. It's going to be busy.
It's going to be pretty great. Be mature, Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Be mature.
I said duty.
Oh, no. You're both being immature. It's my duty to please that booty.
There we go.
Is that a quote from Hustlers?
No, that's a quote from the Shaft 2000 John
Ew.
Singleton classic.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. So as you guys can see, Disco wasn't able to make it due to some scheduling conflicts.
Boo.
Yeah, so I'm taking the reins as host today, which I do enjoy doing from time to time. But I guess we can get right into our weeks in Dork. So, Lisa, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Oh.
I know. We're going the opposite way because people can't see. We've shifted seats. Since
I'm
Darren...
sitting in the Disco Dork seat, which makes me feel very powerful because the board is in front of me, but also makes me feel like a 5-year-old because I'm not allowed to touch it.
Don't touch my board.
Don't touch that board.
So, Lisa, how was your week in Dork?
In one aspect, it sucked because this is the changing of the seasons, which for me as a barometric pressure migraine sufferer, I have had a headache for 5 days.
Oh, that sucks.
But that means that I had plenty of time to snuggle up on the couch with my boo and watch all of the boys. So I feel like I'm taking it kind of easy this week in Dork because it's a show that is amazing and it's a show we've all watched and want to talk about.
Absolutely, yeah. I know me and Darren saw this. It premiered, I think, the week after Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were praising the show and binged it as soon as it dropped on Amazon. And I know you guys were having like some Wi-Fi issues, so it took you guys a minute.
It took us a month plus to get the Wi-Fi working again.
It cured itself. There must have been somebody else who complained to Verizon because we just waited it out like a bad storm or like a plague or something. We just waited until the Wi-Fi to come back on. And it did. Okay. And I'm glad it did because this show is absolutely amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm glad to hear you guys say that because I was so on board with this show and I was so curious to see what your guys' thoughts were on it.
Well, Brad had some reservations because he had some fifis about the comic book.
Yeah, Garth Ennis, Derek Robertson, I love those guys, but this book in particular was really aggressive with its antagonistic tone. Like it was really flaunting the violence, the sex, and I love violence and sex. But I feel like I'm a prude when I talk about the boys' comic book. But it just wasn't for me, guys. It just wasn't for me. It was a little too much.
My reservations were partly because of that.
Okay.
And there were a couple of little instances in the first season where I'm like, in the first episode, where I'm like, am I going to be into this? Because everybody has seen multiple alternate takes on the superhero. And so I was like, this is like well-tread, like...
Yeah.
Ground, yeah.
Yeah. And like... There would be characters on the screen, and Brad would say the ugliest thing that would come to his mind, and that would be the thing that would happen.
Oh, okay.
For example, I'm treading lightly because I don't want to get too spoilery, but I do want to talk about the show. So if you're listening and you want to go in, as I did, completely blind, maybe skip forward a little bit. But, so I'm talking about the first scene between the Deep and Starlighter.
Starlight. I believe.
Starlight?
Yeah.
And, so she enters this huge office and, they're meeting for the first time. And Brad goes like, he's going to molest her. And I was like, no. And then I was like, oh no. So I was just like, maybe this will be a little bit too much for me. But the characters are just so charismatic, and I think that there is enough like emotional stakes that it doesn't feel like it's all about the worst thing that you could imagine happening. And so I'm really enjoying it, guys.
Did you finish it?
Yeah.
You finished it. That's right, because we talked about it a little bit before we started recording.
We were trying to savor it, and we were like, okay, just one episode a night.
Yeah,
and then I think yesterday we watched like 4 episodes, just back to back.
Like Carl Urban as Billy Butcher, the head of the boys, the guy who is sick and tired of superhero culture and this tremendous power dynamic that they have, and the hypocrisy that is baked into the system. The Carl Urban does rage as good as anybody, and I was already a big Urban fan going into The Boys. Yeah. I've loved him ever since. I liked him a lot in The Lord of the Rings, but really it was that.
1-2 punch.
That 1-2 punch of Star Trek 2009 and Dread.
Yep.
That just made me an ultra fan. And if you look at those 3 characters just on their own, Billy Butcher, Bones McCoy, and Judge Dredd, radically different performances.
Absolutely.
A holy trinity for Brad.
It really has become a holy trinity set. Like, I love all of those for different reasons, and Urban's just so fun in each role.
And I think Jack Quaid as a kind of foil balance for his character, as the guy who's kind of roped into this ultra-violent world through tragedy in his life, and what he's capable of doing and still maintaining a certain amount of naivete.
Well, the way he is drawn into Urban's world of rage and anger, the setup in the first episode is he's on a walk with his girlfriend Robin, and they're having a moment together, and A-Train, who's basically the Flash of this world, blitzes right through her body, and she explodes because he took a wrong turn and wasn't paying attention.
And he's just left holding her bloody stub hands. It's so sad.
And the way it works, because these superheroes are America's heroes, and they've been scripted and written, and they're managed by Elizabeth Shue and the Vought Corporation. Their egos are uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And even though he just ran through a woman, I'm sorry, my bad. This is going to happen in this world sometimes. Oops.
Yeah.
And, they try to write him a check. And the relatability, even though that action is so fantastical, the relatability of that is spot on.
And that's what I love about it, is how it's grounded in like our celebrity culture and how we treat and respond to celebrities, influencers, and stuff like that, and how the system work with Vought and everything, and how they try to manipulate and control the narrative of a situation. And I like seeing that.
What separates the show from the comic book is that relatability. The comic book has a lot of these ideas and a lot of these scenes, actually, and I have to admit that I knew some things were going to happen because they kind of happened that way in the comic book. But it's so heightened in the book. Everything's melodrama, but this is like over the top melodrama and in your faceness. And The Boys pulls that back just a little bit to give you a real 2019 superhero.
Or is it that it wasn't changed at all, but now 2019 is such like a hyper crazy, over the top melodramatic time?
I am curious about that, and I have considered, since we finished the show yesterday, maybe I should go back and revisit the series. I have the first 3 trade paperbacks. Maybe I should give them another perusal.
One thing that I really admire in this show is the way that it can subvert your expectations enough that when, in retrospect, kind of obvious plot twists happen, there's still a surprise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of misdirection going on. So you're predicting things, and you may even predict a plot twist that does actually come up, but you forget about that prediction because then you're thinking about this other thing that's going on in this B plot.
Yeah, I mean, it's all around such a good show. Like I said, the character relationships, even between the boys, when you have like Frenchie and Mother's Milk and Billy the Butcher, all of them together and how they get their moments. And even with the 7, like they get their moments, other than Black Noir. But I like how they keep him like mysterious and kind of like a badass. Yeah. But I like how each character has depth to them, even ironically, the Deep, like when you see where his character arc goes towards the end of the show, and how he's kind of like things kind of get flipped as far as like how what happens with his character.
I mean, he starts to understand that he is not a god.
Yeah,
Yeah. And oh my gosh, when a god realizes that he's not a god, it's kind of hilarious and awful. And he totally deserves a lot of the things that happens to him.
Oh yeah.
I would say, without spoiling it, where the story takes his character and where it leaves him off, I was a little disappointed. I wanted a little more of, not necessarily closure, but of an understanding of where he is at the end of that last episode.
Okay.
But I liked how he got to where he was.
I feel like the season finale episode left a lot of questions open-ended.
I was surprised because I thought to myself, how is this going to not wrap up in a season? I was expecting it to be like, period, stop, done, and now we're going to have to struggle to figure out what season 2 is. And yeah, you're right, Lisa, it's the opposite.
Yeah, and the way that episode ends, like, you have no idea where the characters are going to be after that moment. Yeah. That, with crazy things already happening, the bar was raised so much where you're like, well, everybody is going to be a different human being after this.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I love how they ended it because it keeps us really anticipating season 2.
Like, I was crushed when it was over. Yeah. I really wanted to watch the episode 9.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. So when is it coming back? I'm going to start counting days. Do we literally not know?
I don't know. I know they've been filming season 2 already.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because they put out an image of the boys on set. And that was when this premiered, so they were already. And I think Amazon had already greenlit season 2, like when this premiered.
Because they would be dumb-dumbs not to.
Yeah, I guess they already knew. So I'm maybe next year, hopefully sooner, but.
Well, this show has like restored my faith in humanity, especially after we got through our like our fistful of summer, and we were like really scraping the bottom of the barrel to figure out exactly what we loved in the movie theater. Yeah. But once again, television, it lifts our spirits. Brad and I keep forgetting that it exists, but when we find it again,
I don't love TV the way I love movies, but you know, how can I deny myself The Boys?
I love the long form storytelling of television when it is done well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes shows can be a lot of work before you get to where the show is done well, and that can be exhausting.
Yeah,
it can, and also you don't know if it's worth your time. You know, if you put in a couple of hours or however much time for the first couple of episodes, and you do start to like it, but is it going to pay off in a satisfying way? It's hard to tell. So,
and what's great about The Boys is it is only 8 episodes, 8 hours of TV. We can all find 8 hours in a week to consume that thing. We certainly did,
dude. I've just in the past week, I've watched like 2 seasons of £1 Million Menu, so I can certainly find time to watch something that is good.
Absolutely. Anything else you wanted to mention for your weekend, Dork?
Unless you want to hear a lot about £1 Million Menu, I think I'm good. It's like Shark Tank for restaurants in England. It's amazing.
Okay.
Is it though?
No, it's not amazing.
Okay, so Brad, how was your week in Dork?
Loaded. Lots and lots and lots of going on. With Fantastic Fest and Lost Weekend in our near future, I've had to cram a lot of writing into this week. I've had to cram a lot of podcasting. Lisa and I are trying to get a jump on Comic Book Couples Counseling. We're in the process of still doing that so that we have 2 full episodes to end out this month. I did some guest spots on a couple podcasts. The Nerd Party's Missing Frames podcast, hosted by Sean Eastridge. They invited me back on. What's great about Missing Frames is that the core concept is that somebody on the episode is introducing the other person to one of their favorite films.
Oh, nice.
And last time I was on, Sean introduced me to The Graduate. I had never seen The Graduate before. And the way it works is we record part of the podcast before we watch the film.
Okay.
We go and watch the film, and then a few days later we record the back half.
That's cool.
And this week we covered Johnny Guitar, the 1954 Western, which is one of my favorite films. But Sean had never seen it before.
Okay.
And man, I so loved that movie, and I would encourage our listeners to jump on over to the Nerd Party, listen to the new episode of Missing Frames. It's episode 70, so I think that's not going to drop until the end of September.
Okay.
But if you've never seen Johnny Guitar, which I'm guessing a lot of modern moviegoers have not seen, Brian, have you seen Johnny Guitar?
No, I am one of those.
So, it's a 50s Western starring Joan Crawford and Sterling Hayden and Mercedes McCambridge. And you're like, old-timey Westerns, those aren't really my thing. This film is so contemporary. Like what we were saying with The Boys. It's hard not to insert 2019 politics into everything I'm watching, but Johnny Guitar fits perfectly in with America today.
Interesting.
And it's, the West is changing. Joan Crawford plays Vienna, and she has just opened up a saloon near an area of land where the railroad's going to be coming through. And there's a town nearby, and they're upset that the railroad's not going to come by their town, and that Vienna, this woman of sin, this former prostitute,
she raised the money for this saloon lying on her back.
Yeah, right. And she's going to reap the benefits of the railroad, and this saloon's going to be gangbusters. So the righteous Christian townsfolk nearby, they want her gone. And they're going to use her relationship with an outlaw named the Dancing Kid to push her out of town, or push her further out of town.
Okay.
And Johnny Guitar is an old flame played by Sterling Hayden who wants to get a job at her saloon and rekindle his relationship with her. And so as the Christian zealots, led by Emma, played by Mercedes McCambridge, come in to force her out, she stands strong. Johnny Guitar wants to, make with his lady, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. And it's just her standing her ground against all these outside forces and being a total badass. And the film is shot by Nicholas Ray in true color. It looks amazing. It's hyper realistic. There's sets and there's backdrops, and it's just gorgeous. And it's weirdly violent at times. And that my quote from the beginning of the film is a quote from Joan Crawford as she's standing down Mercedes McCambridge in the beginning of the film. So go watch Johnny Guitar. Listen to episode 70 of The Missing Frames. I also recorded an episode of Rest in Pictures with Aaron Prescott. Peter Fonda passed away in August, and we just took the whole episode to celebrate his life and his career. And so I've been watching a lot of Peter Fonda movies this week. I watched The Trip and The Wild Angels and Easy Rider and The Hired Hand and Yuli's Gold and The Limey and just a lot of Peter Fonda films. And he's like an actor I've never really been into, but in going back and watching his filmography, I kind of fell in love with Peter Fonda for the first time. And that's been a lot of fun. I especially really loved Yuli's Gold, which was kind of an indie darling from 1997.
I remember that film back in the day.
Yeah, and he was nominated for Best Actor. He didn't win it that year, but it is an exceptional film. Don't listen to Aaron Prescott. He didn't like it as much as I did. It's Peter Fonda channeling his father, Henry Fonda, and nailing it. And there's a little bit of a crime element to it that of course, I liked.
I really enjoyed The Trip.
And The Trip is great.
It's Bruce Dern, a young, handsome Bruce Dern, guiding Peter Fonda through an LSD trip. It's directed by Roger Corman, so you know it is like classic. But Roger Corman, who has never done LSD, so it's his kind of interpretation of the other LSD films that already exist.
What year did that come out?
1967. Oh,
67, a year before Head. There's like a direct line.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because The Trip is written by Jack Nicholson.
Who also wrote Head.
Interesting.
And, you know, if you take The Wild Angels, which is Roger Corman's Hell's Angels film, and you add The Trip, which is Roger Corman's LSD film, and then you remove the square attitude of Roger Corman and insert the very authentic, hippie, druggy attitude of Dennis Hopper, and then Jack Nicholson, you get Easy Rider. So it's fascinating to watch those three films back to back like I did.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because I know Jack Nicholson was in Easy Rider.
Yeah.
What year did that one come
1969.
out? Okay, so this period.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fascinating because Roger Corman wanted to be a part of Easy Rider, but he couldn't convince the investors to accept Dennis Hopper as a director because he was such a loose cannon. And once the investors said, well, can we get somebody else to direct it? Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda took their film and financed it independently. And it was an indie movie and the most successful indie movie of its day. Yeah. And you know, Easy Rider, like The Graduate, it takes all the cinematic techniques that the French New Wave were doing just a few years earlier and applies them to American cinema.
Okay.
And like Easy Rider feels like let's say The Trip and Wild Angels crawl into a cocoon and then they gestate and then boom, Easy Rider's the butterfly that bursts forth.
Okay.
And like that's what's so great about Rest in Pictures is you go, all right, I'm going to watch a guy's filmography and you're going to see cinema change through that lens.
Yeah.
Rest in Pictures Peter Fonda episode should be going out shortly. So listen to that. I love using my podcast to promote other podcasts.
Plugs.
And then John Cross had me on the After Movie Diner, which is the website that Lisa writes for.
Yeah, I saw that tweet earlier today.
And he wanted me to discuss the Poltergeist films. He had his regular co-host couldn't do the episode, and like a night before or 2 nights before, he's like, can you watch the Poltergeist films and talk about them? I was like, yeah, that's what I do. I watch movies. So I watched Poltergeist 1 through 3, and I had a good time talking about the movies, and I was pretty positive on those films.
Okay.
But for our ItMod listeners, I'm going to be a little more honest.
Oh, okay.
I don't like those Poltergeist movies. I think the first film is pretty darn good, really interesting, and the behind-the-scenes stories of Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg, fascinating. And like I love that era, that 1982 era of genre cinema.
Yeah.
Poltergeist is a blast to watch.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with it. I never fell in love with it, and I still don't love it. I think it's good, but I just don't love it. Poltergeist 2 and 3 are hard to watch.
Really?
I mean, they're just not fun. It's very rehashy, and they do go a little more into the mythology of what the poltergeist is, and it goes into like Native American mythology, but it really bungles, Native American culture. It feels very awkward.
Okay.
A lot. And then Poltergeist 3, the cast doesn't return except for Heather O'Rourke, the little child, and Zelda Rubinstein. Rubinstein? I might get that wrong. I apologize. She returns as Tangina. But the parents in 3 are the aunt and uncle played by Tom Skerritt and Nancy Allen. And I love them.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the film is such garbage. And it's so cheap. It's such a cheap movie. And it's fascinating to think, like, Spielberg had his talons in that first film. Like, he was on set almost every day of filming with Tobe Hooper, which must have been claustrophobic for Hooper.
Yeah.
And all kinds of stories spin out of that. Listen to the After Movie Diner podcast to get the rest of the details. But to see Spielberg have his talons in 1 so hard, and then 2 and 3, he's gone. and like the budget disappears, and it's just so clearly not as precious of a film, part 2, as 1 was. But yeah, it still has Jerry Goldsmith's score, and Goldsmith can make any Drek watchable. But yeah, so I enjoyed watching those 3 films. That's pretty much what I watched this week. I also attended the Small Press Expo, SPX, in Bethesda, Maryland today. Just before you got here, I came back. I love SPX. It's, if it's not a place where you go to celebrate Captain America and Spider-Man. Marvel and DC don't really have a space at SPX. It's more about that outlaw comic vibe. It's a little bit more about the indie, quirkier styles. Our friends Jimmy and Liz Reed of Cuddles and Rage have a table there.
Okay, that's cool.
Kevin Panetta was there with Bloom. But then the guy I was most, not that I'm not excited to see Kevin and Jimmy and Liz.
But we see them all the time because they're our
time.
real life friends.
But Eddie Campbell, the illustrator behind Alan Moore's From Hell, was there. And he was doing signings, and he did not have that big of a line. There's like 2 people ahead of me when I got there, and we had a chance to talk, and a chance for me to gush all over him about how much I love From Hell. And as we were talking, he was signing the book, and he added a little sketch of Jack the Ripper in it, and like I melted in that moment. That was really cool. I brought my dad with me. Lisa had the car, and I didn't want to metro out there, so I bought my dad lunch. That's not even true. He bought me lunch, and he joined me at SPX, and it was fun to watch the convention through his eyes, because it's all very foreign and alien to him.
That's cool.
And he had a good time.
That's cool. A nice little father-son bonding.
Yeah. But I had not gone to SPX in many years because of Lost Weekend and Fantastic Fest. And this year I was able to go. And if you're in the DMV area and you like comics in any way, even if you're just like a superhero kid or whatever, go to SPX, wander around, support, self-publishing artists, and discover some incredible material. You never know what you're going to get. Like, of course, I'm going to go meet my friends, and, Scott Morris is going to be there. Ed Pisker and Jim Rugg are going to be there. Eddie Campbell was there. But, like, the real joys of SPX are finding the people you've never heard about. Wandering and scanning all the tables, and you see this like little mini comic called Pretty Conan, and you're like, what is Pretty Conan? And then you open it up, and it's an anthology of cutesy Conan the Barbarian comics. Like, okay, how much is this? $4.
A deal and a steal.
Here's my $4. And then I was wandering by a booth, and do you know who the character of Man-Thing is?
A little bit. It's kind of similar to, not I don't want to say Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
but
he's a ripoff of Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
He's more than a little similar. He's a straight ripoff. He's
But
Marvel's
his face
answer.
looks like the Fly, but it has like three
Yeah,
little
he's got,
tentacles
like,
coming
tentacles
off.
coming out of
Actually,
his
here's a
mouth.
pop exclusive that I got at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah.
That's Man-Thing.
Yeah, I'm
He's so
familiar.
sweet.
He's so sweet. Well, so I was walking by a table and I saw Man-Thing. And I know I just said, like, this is not a place for Marvel, but here's a Marvel character. And he's hanging on a swamp branch like the kitten from the Hang In There kitty posters.
Okay.
And it just says, hang in there, and it's Man-Thing in the kitty poster. And I was like, well, I have to have this. How much is this? $5.
Everything's a steal there.
You know, it's a good con when Brad stops at Michael's on the way home because he needs frames now.
Yeah, my frame for the Hang In There Man-Thing poster, more expensive than the poster itself.
Damn.
So yeah, go find SPX. It's usually in the fall, September area. You've missed out this year, but put it on your calendar for next year. Do not miss SPX.
Sounds good, man. Sounds like you had a busy week.
It was loaded. Yeah.
Man, well, my weekend dork is going to be relatively short because I really didn't do a lot. Actually, I'm going to talk about a show that Darren actually recommended. I guess you could kind of say recommended, but it's a show on Amazon called Undone. He texted me the other night, and he was like, dude, have you heard about this show Undone? And I was like, I think so. Then he sent me the trailer, and I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember hearing about that. And I was having a little trouble sleeping last night. Kind of got up around like 3 a.m. So I said, let me watch a couple, because it's 8 episodes. It's about 22, 23 minutes. So it kind of has like the half-hour format for a television show. So it's a real easy watch. I only watched the first 2 episodes of Undone. It stars Rosa Salazar, who a lot of people may know. I think she was in some of the Maze Runner movies and most recently in Alita Battle Angel. And it is done in an animation style kind of similar to like the rotoscoping animation that we saw in something like A Scanner Darkly and Waking Life.
Sold.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think now I'm only seeing the first 2 episodes, but I believe from the storytelling and what this is about, that animation style really is going to lend itself to what hopefully I'll see in the later episodes. But it's basically, I'm going to read this from IMDb. A woman discovers she has a new relationship with time after surviving a car accident that almost killed her. So what I really liked about these first 2 episodes is the fact that there's an authenticity to the relationships and the characterizations of Rosa Salazar and her mother and her sister. Her father passed away when she was a child from a car accident, and it really kind of delves into Rosa Salazar and how her life is kind of not really crumbling, but she's questioning a lot of like choices that she's making in her life. She can see that she's possibly dealing with some mental illness, some depression, because she hasn't really reconciled with the death of her father. And so her sister, on the flip side, just got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, who Rosa Salazar, thinks he's an okay guy, but maybe she could do a little bit better. And she's in a relationship with a guy that she's living with, but not necessarily committed to. So she gets into an argument with her sister, and then she drives off and gets into a car accident and goes into a coma. And then she sees an image she sees her father, played by Bob Odenkirk. And her father, and this is kind of just a setup. He basically is trying, that accident has kind of tapped into this ability that she has where he's trying to pull her back to solve a mystery that involves his death. So it's interesting in the direction where it seems like it might be going. And I've always was fascinated with that animation style, that rotoscoping animation style. So and I like Rosa Salazar, and what I've seen in the first 2 episodes, I think she kind of nails her performance. And like I said, the characterizations of that family dynamic is really, really strong. But yeah, it just premiered on Amazon, and I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if Darren finished it or not. I'll reach out to him and see how far he's gotten. But I'm 2 episodes into an 8-episode season, season, and I'm really kind of digging this. So Amazon, we just talked about The Boys.
Yeah.
Amazon is doing some amazing, dare I say, well, I mean, Netflix has more content, but Amazon is putting out better quality material right now.
I mean, there's, for my money, and I know it might just be recency bias, but I don't think there's any show on Netflix as good as The Boys.
No.
Not, especially as in concerning my tastes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mindhunter. You're boring.
Still haven't watched that.
You're good. Don't worry about it. Watch the Charlie Manson episode.
Okay, was it episode 3?
I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, so Undone is streaming now. But yeah, The Boys, Undone, the Meek Mill docuseries that's on there. There's so much good stuff coming out of Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, my weekend dork is really light. I did some rewatches. I just rewatched John Wick Chapter 3. Still enjoy it. Rewatched Godzilla King of the Monsters. Still enjoy it. Great stuff. So yeah, that's kind of it for me. So yeah, this might be a little short episode since
That's all right.
No, it's not, because aren't you guys going to do the Hustlers review?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes I forget how this goes.
It's because I'm in the host's chair, so
Thank you,
And,
Lisa.
and you're bailing on us for Hustlers.
Well, I got a text from Brian actually that was like, Hustlers is super not VF. And then immediately after that, Darren sending a text confirming that.
Yeah.
And so Brad did the husbandly thing to do, and he went to watch it first. And he came back to me, like, as I'm, like, getting ready for midday, and he goes, like, well, during this scene, the characters are going to do this, so you're going to want to close your eyes here. And then a little bit later, this other thing happens, and he took really elaborate notes.
Yeah.
But there's apparently, like, 4 vomit scenes in this movie, so I just kind of took medical anxiety leave on this one and go like, I mean, it sounds like a great film, but not good enough for me. Like, apparently one of the characters' like fun quirks is that she vomits all over the place all the time. So
yeah.
The first half of the movie, you're fine. But that second half of the movie,
Yeah,
things go down.
and that's the thing, and it switches because some is visible, some is audible,
Yeah.
and then it's like, and I was trying to keep track, and then about halfway down, I was like,
you are so sweet. That is above and beyond.
I brought a notebook.
He did.
I'm in Tyson's Corner Mall watching Hustlers, and I'm some weirdo up front taking intense notes about all the vomit sequences.
so so when we get back from the break, me and Brad will give you our thoughts on Hustlers, and Elisa will be listening and chiming in and being inquisitive.
I'll just cheer you guys on. Keep going. Keep podcasting. Don't quit.
So we will give you that when we return.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we are back. So yes, Hustlers is the new film. It is directed by Lorene Scafaria. I believe her first film was Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, if I have that correct, with Keira Knightley and Steve Carell. Let me pull that up here. And I was impressed by...
You're correct. I just looked it up.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Oh, she directed... she
Medler.
stars in Coherence.
Yes, she's an actress as well.
Ah, cool. I love Coherence.
Yeah, so she's done a couple TV movies. This is her third feature because I believe she did a movie also called The Meddler in 2015. I gotta say, I was completely impressed with her directorial style, specifically in this movie. If this was a directorial debut, this would have been a hell of an announcement of her as a director. We'll get into a lot more stuff, but So, Brad, I guess it's just going to be the two of us. So we'll kind of do this ping pong style. Thank you, Lisa. So, yeah, I guess I'll start with you. Now, I also do want to mention that this movie is based on a New York Magazine article. So this is based on true events that happened between the time of 2007 to 2014.
Last night I read the article.
Yeah, I
Jessica
wanted to.
Pressler. It's called The Hustlers at Scores.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to read it before we got into this discussion, but I know a little bit about that. So
the film does a pretty good job of following the events as depicted in the article.
Okay.
I think the relationships are a little bit different, and some of the motivations for the characters are a little bit different or exaggerated.
Okay.
But the hustle itself and how it relates to the 2008 financial crisis, it's pretty much right out of the article.
Man, that's incredible. So let's get into this. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Brad. So let's go with some of the good. What did you find appealing about this film?
I mean, I think there's a lot of good in the movie.
Me too. I do too.
I want to start with Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
I think you have to, as Ramona, the wizened stripper who passes her knowledge to all the young girls who come on board. Because most girls they're in their what? They're in their late teens, early 20s, like 19, 20, 21.
21.
And Jennifer Lopez is much older, and by stripper standards, she's practically an old maid.
Yeah.
She sure don't look like an old maid, though.
No, that dance scene in the beginning
it's pretty stunning.
Something to marvel at.
It's like, yeah, it's a showstopper.
Yes.
Yeah. My wife's in the room. Let's move on.
Do you guys need me to leave?
But from a performance standpoint,
Yes.
I think this is her strongest role and her strongest turn since Soderbergh's Out of Sight.
I agree. Absolutely.
Because that's like a gold standard movie for me. Like when we've talked about it on this podcast before, we hosted Out of Sight as one of our still awesome screenings at the Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester, Virginia. And it's a stellar movie, and you watch Out of Sight and you go, Jennifer Lopez is going to take Hollywood by storm. Like, she is going to be a massive force, and she is. She is a massive force. I don't mean to downplay her cultural icon status. She is an icon.
Absolutely.
But in the realm of film, she never really she hit that rom-com level.
Yeah, she kind of settled in there.
And she never went beyond that.
Yeah.
And then you watch Hustlers and you go, oh, this is the
always been
Lopez
there.
I want.
Absolutely. It's always been there. I agree. I love her performance. Like I said, that show-stopping number when she gets on the pole in the strip club was just amazing. But then,
you're single. You can go into more details. Give me more details.
Yes, it was something. Like I said, I've talked about it before. It's amazing, and she still got it. Like, even she's 50 and she still got it. But her performance, like that scene on the rooftop when she kind of mentors and kind of brings in Constance Wu.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
that scene on the rooftop. All right, so Constance Wu is one of the up and coming strippers who's struggling to find her place in the club, and also trying to figure out her character on the stage.
Exactly.
So she goes upstairs because she also witnesses Ramona's show-stopping performance on the stage. And when she goes upstairs, composition-wise, the shot of Jennifer Lopez in this fur coat, lying on this ventilation duct, that is a one perfect shot.
Yes.
That's a poster.
Yeah.
That's a poster that you put in somebody else's room, Lisa, not ours. That's somebody else's. It's a great poster.
Somebody's college dorm, perhaps.
The way that Scarfina shoots her, she shows you, the audience, what a titan of the industry this character is, and why somebody like Constance Wu would gravitate towards her power.
Absolutely. Because, and this is something that you mentioning Out of Sight, and I would even say Selena, those are probably her two best performances, which ironically was 97 and 98.
I also love U-Turn.
Yeah.
She's crazy in U-Turn, but she's great in U-Turn.
Yeah. So basically since like 97, 98, she really hasn't had a peak performance like this.
She was in that like thriller from a few years ago. I can't remember what it was called. It made a ton of money. It was like a evil boyfriend movie. I don't know.
Enough?
No, it wasn't enough. It was like last year. It was like something really trashy.
The Boy Next Door?
The Boy Next Door.
Something.
But it made a ton of cash.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, but like this, like she just has a presence on screen that I haven't seen since Out of Sight, and you see it not just from the dance performance on the stage, but when you get to that rooftop, how she commands the screen.
Well, you know that moment in Out of Sight when she just like decimates that dude with the baton, and she's like, "You wanted to tussle, we tussled."
Yeah,
like that intimidation.
Yes,
like that is. This film, like her whole role is that scene from Out of Sight.
Yeah, you're right. Jennifer Lopez is amazing, but I gotta say, all around, and Constance Wu. I guess we could just talk about the good in general. I thought she was pretty phenomenal in this movie.
She's great.
In this movie as well.
I think the cast is exceptional. Even the supporting players are all perfect.
Yeah. Keke Palmer. We get some recording artists, Cardi B and Lizzo, in the beginning, and that's something else that I like too. Was just that first act of bringing us into this world of the lifestyle of a stripper and in the strip club, going behind the scenes and seeing the camaraderie of these women and the stuff that they talk about, and then going on stage, and then even with that opening scene and how Scafaria follows Constance Wu's character. It's almost like that one continuous shot when all the girls are going on stage. You see all the guys looking at them as they walk through the stage, and then seeing like how much money she actually takes home when she tries to go around and get lap dances from certain guys, and how certain people aren't really responding to her. So she, like you say, she's really trying to find her niche. So the way Scafaria like follows her around in that first act, I thought was really, really a great way to introduce us not just to that world, but to the character of Destiny, played by Constance Wu, and some of her motivations, which we'll get into some of the bad, but at least trying to get into some of the reasonings for why she started to go the route that she was going.
Yeah, and her anxieties of how she's doing this and why she's doing this.
Yeah.
You know, there's this uncertainty, and Constance Wu starts the film and she is doubt, right? And then Jennifer Lopez at the start of the film is confidence. And so it's this collision of doubt and confidence, and doubt gaining confidence from this other person. I loved that dynamic. It's a dynamic you see a lot in cinema, that mentor student thing. But I'm also like a big time sucker for that dynamic.
Yeah. So, anything else good you wanted to mention?
I want to go just a little bit more into the cast.
Okay.
Mercedes Rule is in this film. I haven't seen Mercedes Rule in forever. She plays the character of Mother, who's like the den mother of all the girls. Yes. And I was so excited to see her in the movie because it's just been so long, and she's great in the film. The woman who plays Dawn, who is the cokehead interloper in the group.
God, yeah, she comes in around the third act of the film.
Yeah, that she's played by the actress from the movie Cam, which was one of my favorite horror films from last year, Madeline Brewer. Her energy is really uncomfortable and just perfect, like a perfect flavor for that point in the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, and just like the rest of the cast. So awesome. Even Julia Stiles, who's barely in the film, she's playing the journalist character. Yes. Yeah. She's basically playing Jessica Pressler. But it's like Dragnet. All the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Yes.
And I liked her moments, especially towards the end of the film when she finally kind of gets under the skin of Destiny. And she's having that conversation with her over the phone while she's at her baby shower. And Destiny is like breaking down over the phone, and she's encouraging Destiny to reach out to Ramona. Yeah. I liked Julia Stiles a lot in that moment.
I did too. And it was good to see Julia Stiles because I don't really see her in a lot of stuff recently. She may have done some stuff.
I'm sure she's been working a lot, but she hasn't come across my radar. And I agree with you. It's just really great to see her on screen again.
Yeah, I just think I want to go back a little bit more to the direction.
Yeah.
Just how Lorene Scafaria has just really. I mean, to me, this movie. That was just one of the standouts, was her as a director and a lot of the different flourishes that she brings to this film. The first act, again, while talking about bringing us into this world, I know it's something Darren likes to call the needle drops. A lot of the music and a lot of the almost kind of video music style sequences.
Yeah, it's like Belly, but Belly done right.
Yeah, it brings a lot of energy to this movie, and it kind of makes the pacing move at such a clipped pace to it. Although I think there was some pacing issues towards the latter part of the film.
Yeah, I want to talk about it in our next segment.
But and I like how she used sound in this movie, to the point where I think it kind of confused the audience that I was with. There was a moment when Elizabeth, played by Julia Stiles, is interviewing Constance Wu character Destiny, and she turns off the voice recorder, and the sound goes out.
Yeah.
And I remember in the crowd, people were like, "Wait a minute, did the sound go out?" And I knew, I was like, "No, this is part of the movie."
Yeah.
And
it's
even,
a really great flourish.
And even with Dawn, when she gets caught by the police, and then they have to do the sting, when they go drug one of the other guys. The sound is almost like it's coming from where she's being taped, where she's being
wired,
where she's being wired.
Yeah.
And again, people were like, "What's wrong with the sound? Why does it sound like this?"
Yeah.
But I like how you're hearing it as the way the cops are hearing it.
Yeah.
But you're seeing everything that's happening in the room. So I like those little directorial flourishes that she's doing.
I love how when the hustle begins, when they finally decide, the 2008 financial crisis happens, it turns the strip clubs into black holes of where there's no cash available at all.
Yeah.
And people to make money have to do prostitution, basically. And they don't want to do that. So they come up with the hustle. And real quick, what is the hustle? They go fishing.
They go fishing. Yeah.
They go out to a top line bar. They find a guy with some really nice shoes, because if a guy has nice shoes or a nice watch, he's got real money.
Yeah.
And one of the hustlers will go in for the kill, start flirting big time, and then at a key critical moment, her sisters will show up.
Yeah.
And then the guy's just like overcome with beauty.
Yeah. It's like, it's all for me?
Yeah. While he's like, trying to pick his jaw off of the floor, they spike his drink with a combination cocktail of ketamine and MDMH. Is it MDMH? That's the mutant hormone in X-Men comics. Whatever the other realistic one
MDMA?
is. MDMA, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So happy I could
MDH
help.
is what they use in Daredevil. And so they spike their drink with this combo of drugs, and what that combo of drugs, it takes somebody to extreme heights of ecstasy, while at the same time destroying their memory, so they won't remember the next day what they did and what credit cards they have given over.
Yeah.
The first time they do this on Gary.
Yeah, that was his name, Gary.
Yeah, the way they edit that. So, you see the drugs go in, he takes the sip, and then suddenly you see a cut of his feet, in the air, like he's floating, and they are just dragging him through the club, through the bar.
They're weekend at Bernieing him.
Yeah, poor Gary. Not poor Gary. Screw these guys. I know the film at certain times. Constance Wu's character Destiny starts to have a little empathy for some of these slobbering drunks. But
and we'll talk about that in the bag, because I got some issues with the way they kind of portray that. But I agree with, I guess, some of their justification, maybe. We'll get into it.
But I think that's really the end of my good.
Okay.
It's like an update of the Goodfellas narrative, where it's rags to riches to jail cell.
Yeah, it structurally does follow Goodfellas.
Yeah. And that's a good structure to have.
Yeah.
And it's a fun ride to be on until it's no longer fun to be on, right? And so it moves that train along well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into a little bit of the bad. And again, I will say I really enjoyed this movie and I like this movie a lot. But I did have some issues with the film that maybe we can kind of talk this out. But one of the things is like in the beginning they say, okay, these Wall Street guys, they stole money, they're bad people. So if the movie felt like it was trying to put a face on these Wall Street guys that basically kind of screwed over the system. But when they were kind of doing, when they had these marks and taking advantage of these guys and basically drugging them and taking their money, for some reason, like, I don't think they did a great job of, like, they're saying that, okay, we're doing this because, they screwed us over, so we're going to do the same.
I mean, the hustlers, they need money. And once they start getting money, they become accustomed to a particular lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not like they're robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. They're robbing from the rich and making themselves rich.
Yeah,
now,
but a lot of these guys, I felt more sympathy for them because even though they're saying, okay, these are the Wall Street guys, but like when you look at somebody like Gary or Doug towards the end, like I feel more sorry for them, and it felt like the movie was trying to justify a little bit of their actions.
I think the film Destiny starts to, the film tracks with Destiny's point of view on what they're doing. At the beginning, Destiny's like, this is great. Who cares about these guys? We're going to stick it to the man. This is an anti-establishment action, power to the people.
Yeah.
And you're in it. You're like, yeah, screw these guys. Like Frank Whaley shows up as Reese, and he's a mogul who's just really lecherous and disgusting. And, like, F that guy, screw that guy.
Yeah.
It's great to see them pull one over on him.
Yeah.
Then they introduce, like, Steven, who's, like, the architect character, and he's got a family. And, Destiny has a little bit of a or is it Doug? I can't remember. Doug, you're right. And Destiny has a little bit of a relationship with him, and she sort of likes the guy.
Yeah.
And she starts to feel a little bad. And then, when she cold calls, or when one of the guys calls her back up after they screwed him over, like out of like $50,000.
Yeah.
He's going to lose his house. His wife's going to leave him, and she feels sorry for him.
And Ramona, when she tries to take the phone from her.
And Ramona's, just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Ramona's cold and calculating.
Yeah.
And Destiny, has the ability to empathize even with possible jerks.
Yeah.
And, that offers a little more humanity to Destiny maybe, but at the same time, it's not interesting to me.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, I agree. Like motivation wise, right?
Yeah.
So Destiny has a grandma. She's struggling. She's giving all her money to grandma.
Mm-hmm.
What a sweet, loving person.
Yeah.
None of that's from reality. That was not a driving force of Keo, the woman that this is based on.
Okay.
And Samantha Barbish, aka Samantha Fox, who Ramona's based on, did have a child, but from what I gathered, was not really a motivating factor for her either. These were women who found an opportunity to make a ton of money off of these chumps, these rich chumps.
Yeah.
And they took advantage of it. And you know what? More power to them, I say. Whatever. So, like, when it plays around with the motivations of those characters, it feels a little false to me.
Okay.
And then, like, we're setting up the fact that Destiny is a good person. She's taking care of grandma.
Yes.
And she sympathizes with these people.
Okay.
And it just felt a little movie to me.
Yeah, that was something else. I mean, another aspect of the grandmother and Ramona's daughter, like, part of me, I didn't really like how agreeable they were of their lifestyle. Because it just felt like, because there's a moment where you see Destiny give her grandmother this wad of cash.
It's not a wad, it's a brick.
It's a brick of cash. And she don't question it. She don't do anything. And then they have like that Christmas party where her grandmother says she danced with Frankie Valli.
Frankie
Valli. And it just felt like okay, like you don't question what your granddaughter is doing, and you're bringing her, showing her a part of this lifestyle, and even with Ramona and her daughter, like her daughter like wakes up and comes into the room.
Yeah, I wonder what the movie would be like if you got rid of these good guy characters who say like, grandma. Like if you got rid of grandma and you got rid of the kids and you got rid of the boyfriend character who ends up being a jerk.
Yeah.
If you just got rid of that and you just focused on these women who discover the hustle and then ride the hustle as far as it possibly could.
Yeah.
Like that just feels more interesting to me.
Okay. So not really having some of these subplots.
Yeah,
and side
like
stories
it just they rang its false.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the pacing for me in the second and third act, because I mean it moves at a brisk pace, but diving into some of those other elements, it just felt like the movie was, I could start to feel the time as we got into like the third act.
Well, I think Hustlers, like my big complaint about Hustlers is that it is a story I've seen before.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
But I'm not crazy excited to like rewatch this or anything.
Okay.
I might rewatch, Jennifer Lopez's standout showstopper moment.
Oh, your wife's right here.
Oh no, she's looking at me.
Yowza. I wasn't listening. What were you talking about?
But like I don't have a desire to like, at the end of the year rewatch this. It's not going to be in my dorkies or anything like that.
Yeah. It depends on how the rest of the year goes.
Well, that's a fact. But no, we got Lost Weekend and Fantastic Fest in front of us. We're going to see so many great movies.
I know. Jojo Rabbit's right around the corner.
Hustlers might be in my top 25.
It could be easily. I wouldn't scoff at that, man, because I really enjoyed this film.
But like it is one of those things like after the first hustle, like the first half is so engaging, and then the introduction of the hustle is engaging, but it slows down and becomes less interesting.
It does. And like you said, it definitely has a lot of the structure of Goodfellas. Another movie that I thought about was Boiler Room.
Yeah.
Because it kind of has that same kind of sensibilities and structure as Boiler Room. Characterizations as well when I think about like the Giovanni Ribisi character.
Yeah.
Because you think
Aren't
about...
you glad you're not following those guys? Like you start to follow a couple of these dudes, but I definitely don't want to hear their story. Like I do not care about them.
Yeah, this is a little bit more compelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like how with that particular film, Giovanni Ribisi is kind of like that moral center where just like in this movie with Doug, you see Constance Wu kind of have that morality as far as like, okay, I need to help this guy out, and she struggles with that conflict of, and Jennifer Lopez is kind of playing like some of those other guys from Boiler Room and stuff like that. So I kind of like how, and like you say, it's derivative of some of those films that we've seen before.
But what we haven't seen before is this cast.
We haven't.
And again, like I can't reiterate how enough just how good everybody in the cast is.
They are. They're really good. So yeah, those are like some of the faults that I had with the film. I guess the ugly. I'll let you kick that.
I mean, the ugly is there's a lot of vomit in this film.
Yeah.
We've covered it already, but it is absurd. And like I don't have Lisa's emetophobia, but I do not like it as a thing in movies. And when you introduce a character who, when she gets nervous, she does that.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, because it's not really adding. It's not adding anything to the story or the character.
It's funny, but to me, it's not funny.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It just doesn't add anything to the story that you really need to have in there. So
that's my ugly.
Yeah, I would agree. There's not much ugly.
Well, I mean, when you watch a film like this, you're also subjected to a ton of misogyny. Like that's one of the motivating factors of this film.
True.
And it is, there are scenes in this film that are hard to watch, that are really, really gross.
Yeah, there definitely is, especially to a lot of these different women as well.
Yeah, and I can see somebody who just doesn't want to put themselves through some of these sequences not having a good time with Hustlers.
Yeah. And I mean, like the whole, if people have problems, like I said, with like strip clubs or strippers and that type of culture, then this may not be the film for you.
But if you love Usher.
Which, that was odd yet kind of awesome.
It was awesome. I loved it. Very strange. And I thought, is this part? Like, this is why I read the article.
Yeah.
Is because I wanted to
I don't
know
think
about
that
the
was
Usher
part-
thing. No, it's a total fabrication.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it is loosely based on a New York Post article from 2008 in which Usher is named multiple times for having visited strip clubs and throwing a ton of cash around.
I can
but
see that.
the connection to the Hustlers is a fabrication.
Yeah, no, yeah, I could see, around that time, I could definitely see Usher in the strip club throwing wads of cash.
Yeah, but I loved when like Usher's in the house.
I know,
and like
and then all
every
the women-
woman got on stage, like. There was an Usher time.
Yeah, that was funny because I think it was Lizzo's character. It was like,
Yeah.
yo, Usher's here, so everybody gets on the stage. I just thought that was funny. It felt like, Jennifer Lopez, like, oh, let me call in a favor and get one of my friends in the movie.
It's cool.
But I
enjoyed it.
thought that was cool. But
Did
yeah.
Lizzo play the flute?
Yes.
Yes.
She played it?
Yeah. She plays it in the dressing room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is so multifaceted.
Yeah,
I love that woman.
She's awesome, and Cardi B, they kept her to a minimum.
She's good.
She is so multifaceted.
She's I don't want to say perfectly fine. She works for the role that she has.
She does.
Yeah.
It works. It works in that setting.
Okay.
Oh, I can't do it.
I still can't do it.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not daring.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I like the way you do it, though. It's kind of like a mogwai.
Oh,
So cute.
I can't even do that. You got me beat, Brad. I can't even do that. But yeah, that's Hustlers. I enjoyed the film. It was nice.
yeah, I would recommend it. Thumbs up.
Yeah,
Lisa,
definitely.
watch the first half.
Yeah.
I'll watch it like I watched The Sound of Music as a kid. I just wait until the Nazis show up and then just turn it off.
Honestly, I think at home it would be easy to fast forward through the sequences that are troubling.
Yeah.
And I think you would enjoy the movie.
I like enjoying movies, and I love Lizzo.
Well,
yeah,
she's in it.
yeah. They have a big part, but they have a good bit to do. So yeah, I guess that is our review of Hustlers. I just want to make sure we covered everything and said everything that we wanted to say.
I love that Brian, when we do Week in Dork, he does the hosting of going last, but when you guys do a good, bad, and ugly, he keeps the power seat of going first.
I did.
Yes.
Did you do that?
Yes, he did, except for until he got to the ugly. Brian doesn't like to do the ugly, so he kicked it to Brad.
Oh,
I don't.
I think the good. I think he also.
No,
started.
yeah, I think I
He passed the
started.
good over at me.
I did.
I was
started.
not. I cleaned out my my Gmail, which was overdue. I subscribe to a lot. I am a real whore with my email address. I'm just passing it out.
I need to do some fall cleaning on my email as well. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So yeah, before we go, let's get a couple of plugs in. So we do have Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventures. I think their most recent episode was Varsity Blues.
They've done Jaws. No, was that before?
Jaws was before.
Jaws was before. Frankenstein's not out. They're about to drop Frankenstein.
So they're about to drop Frankenstein. Look out. So this episode comes out Monday. The website, inthemouthofdarkness.com should be up and running by the time you hear this. Yes, absolutely. And you will have all the podcast feeds on the .com. So check out Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventure and follow them on Twitter as well, and follow Billy at WB Also, Brad and Lisa, comic. I get this twisted every time. Comic book couples counseling.
Yeah,
I did it.
You did it.
What you got on deck for that?
We are finishing up our Sex Criminals series. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, we'll have episode 3 out there, and by the time of Fantastic Fest, we will have episode 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
and
plan.
how long is that series running?
That's just 4 episodes.
Just the 4?
And then so the 4th episode is going to close out Sex Criminals. Should we spoil who our next couple is after Sex Criminals here on In the Mouth of Darkness?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our couple following John and Susie from Sex Criminals will be Swamp Thing, and Abby from the Swamp Thing series. It's our October Halloween couple.
Is that the classic Alan Moore?
We'll have some Alan Moore, Bernie, but we'll also have the Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson era. I think we'll do a Nancy Collins issue, and we'll probably do a Brian K. Vaughan issue. So we're going to jump all over Swamp Thing.
Nice. And
Just
again,
like I want to do.
Yeah, ditto.
I want to jump all over him.
Ditto. Yeah.
I like a slimy man.
He's like the Ramona of the swamp.
I don't get that reference because I didn't watch Hustlers.
So be sure to follow the podcast at CBCC Podcast.
Yeah.
On Twitter. I'm getting it. And also on the website as well. Their feed is on the inthemouthofdarkness.com. Also Chatcast.
Yes.
I know we just dropped the one that we did with Jerry G. Angelo.
Yeah, and then this Wednesday we will have Irene Brodsky, the director of the documentary Moonlight Sonata. Midnight Sonata?
Moonlight Sonata.
Moonlight Sonata, Deafness in 3 Parts.
3 movements.
Damn it. What's the title, Lisa? You just tell them.
Moonlight Sonata, Deafness in 3 Movements.
Yeah, and that's an old interview that we did on the side of the road in Park City, Utah.
Oh,
The sound quality is spotty.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
But interview style, dead on.
Yeah.
We get to the
go.
heart of the issue.
And then we have a couple filmmakers from the Toronto International Film Festival joining us on the show. And then we're going to have a bunch of Fantastic Fest interviews.
Really
look out for that.
exciting ones.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
So stoked.
There's one I'm really scared to do.
Stay
But I'm
tuned.
super excited.
Stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned for that. It is extremely exciting. So a lot of stuff going on in the ItMod family, the ItMod network. There's a lot of stuff going on. And, of course, In the Mouth of Darkness, you can check us out. Look forward to our episode when we do our fistful of Fantastic Fest and also of Lost Weekend, Lost Weekend 12, that is also kicking off this week on Thursday night in Winchester, Virginia. So, Lisa.
Yes.
We can find you at
Sidewalk Siren.
I'm still getting this down. I'm so sorry. At Sidewalk Siren on Twitter and Instagram, and also at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram. What are you looking forward to this upcoming week?
Fantastic Fest.
Of course. And also Brad, follow him at Mouth Dork on all social medias. Dare I ask, what are you looking forward to this week?
Fantastic Fest and seeing the reaction out of Lost Weekend from Billy and Darren.
Yes, I can't wait for that. And also follow Darren at the Disco Dork on all social medias. And like I said before, Billy at WB Dash. They'll be doing a lot of coverage for Lost Weekend down in Winchester. Follow me, the Turtle Dork, at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, at Brian William Young on Facebook, also on the YouTube channel. And of course, I am looking forward to Fantastic Fest and all the films that we all are going to be watching. So I guess that's going to do it for this episode of our Weekend Dork / Reviewcast of Hustlers. And until next time.
Yeah.